Hi, my name's Aiden here at the Heartland Regional to bring you a behind the bumpers on Team 1987 Broncobots and their bot Cyclone. With their die rotor representing the storm and the turret in the eye, going to Weston to talk about the intake.
Yeah, so this year we decided to go with a 4-bar intake. We decided to do this because of when it's in the robot, it's way more spacious. We're kind of conscious about how much space it's going to take up, especially since this year's intake for us is a full length intake. It holds up to 5 balls in one go. And we did that also for increased fuel per instance of intaking. So that way for other subsystems, they just get more fuel. We also did a 5 roller system to get the balls up and into our robot faster and more efficiently. So this 5th roller here is specific to our team's goal because we wanted to get it more into the robot. And without this 5th roller, we're just gonna suck it up. But with the 5th roller, it kind of gets more velocity and goes deeper into the robot to clear up all dead zones in the robot everywhere else. Another big problem we had this year was durability. Our intake was very flimsy at the beginning of the year, and we had to quickly pivot to a more durable structure. So that's why we have we have all these metal caps to keep the hubs in line and also on the rollers. We have polycarb rollers, and when they get hit, they like to dent, and they also like to fall off the hubs themselves. So with these aluminum caps, they stay on and they keep those polycarb rollers more intact. As we move to other things like this wheel here, that's called a Zamboni wheel. We use that so when we drive across a wall, our intake doesn't get ripped off entirely. We can just quickly run along it and it'll spin freely. That helps, especially also like just sucking up deeper next to the wall because our intake doesn't like to raise as much compared to others. So it needs to be as much easily accessible to the walls. Another thing we did this year for the intake was we hid all of our motors down low. This is to also help more packaging space and even better for the rest of the subsystems to increase fuel flow and get it out of the way.
Before we get to our next segment, we'd like to thank the following. True competitors know that every second counts. That's why Kettering University challenges you to dive in right away as a first-year student. Participating in robotics programs helps Kettering students secure a valuable co-op. Whatever your interests, Kettering gives you more space to work faster and win faster. Learn more at kettering.edu/first. Osh Cut is the premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, 3D tube laser cutting, and with nearly 500 variations of metal in stock and ready to cut. Just upload a file and claim your 50% off discount when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT.
So I'm gonna hand off to Preston for die rotor.
Okay, so the die rotor is something that we prototyped early in the year and it worked really well for us. So we went with it for our robot. And in this die rotor, we wanted to keep like fuel flow into this as well as possible. So what we did is we made it as big as possible around, and then we made the inner column like really thin. So one way we did that is that we made this top plate of the hook thinner than the bottom plate so that like fuel can fall in, and then the bottom plate is thick so it helps with structure and keeps it strong. And the other benefit of that is that if we ever have to run the die rotor backwards, instead of fuel getting stuck here, it kind of acts as a ramp to like jack it up into the bot. And so this die rotor is driven coaxially. So the rotation of the die rotor is separate from the wheel rotation here. So this allows us to basically tune the ratio of the speeds in code to get it exactly what we want it. And it helps us like make changes. So I can flip the robot to show the bottom. Here we can see the gearbox that runs it. It's driven with 25 chain. So we have one motor that drives the wheels and then another that drives the actual die rotor. And all of it can be tensioned to get the right chain tension. And yeah, the die rotor has like metal rods that goes through this tube, and that helps support the turret. So like a lot of the weight of the turret is actually supported by the die rotor, and we're doing that with an X contact bearing in here, and then another one on this structure. So we have 2 X contact bearings in the turret, and so this turret is driven by a 25 chain, and it has a max planetary here that is a 25-to-1 ratio, and yeah, so this turret can go over 360 degrees, and we can encode that by having a absolute encoder here, where this encoder, for every 1 rotation of the turret, it does half a rotation. So we could do up to 720 degrees with this encoder and have the absolute position where it won't lose where it is. And this is basically just a 3D printed gearbox with carbon fiber nylon gears in it.
Now on to Frank to talk about the shooter.
All right, this year we have our year's shooter, and we decided to make it super low profile so that we could clear the trench. The shooter in height is 4 inches and 1/4, so that we're able to not only maximize how much space we're taking up on the shooter, but just be able to overall package the shooter really well. Here, an interesting part on our shooter is something that we call a floating hood, which is essentially our hood being operated by a cycloidal with a gearbox of 80.5-to-1, where we're able to adjust the hood angle. And here you can see a 10-pound constant force spring. The cycloidal does a really good job at managing backlash, but during our V1 testing, we realized that the shooter was still seeing some accuracy problems with how much fuel flow was going through. So we added that 10-pound constant force spring so that we're able to be super rigid as we're scoring. Here, our main flywheel, it's a 4-inch West Coast Products urethane wheel, a durometer of 60A, and it is operated by these 2 Kraken X60s with a 24-to-30 gear ratio. This flywheel runs on a dead axle, so that could aid our packaging. And just overall, we decided that we did not want to add any flywheel mass to the shooter because we want to be able to quickly adjust the speed as we are trying to intake and shoot on the move. And so that's essentially us trying to predict, hey, if we're going super far away from the hub, we can quickly change the RPM on the actual flywheel. And then over here, we have our 1-inch 45A durometer backspin wheels. And essentially, these 2 wheels are operated on different power trains so that we can operate them separately. We're able to control the RPM of both so that we are able to be anywhere on the field and still have accurate measurements while we're scoring. Going around, you can see our essentially fixed hood when our adjustable hood is all the way up. And additionally, our adjustable hood is able to go all the way up to 90 degrees. These aluminum frames are able to provide rigid structure as we are trying to shoot and score. And essentially, when we're in the neutral zone trying to ferry fuel, it does a really good job in trying to essentially channel and index the balls from the die rotor and out of the shooter. And then, so yeah. Overall, the shooter, what we decided just to do this season is really make it super low profile. And you can see all the weight savings we did with the shooter. We have a partial depth pocketing around the shooter so that it remains, lightweight. There's about 1/16 of an inch of space in between both of the plates, as you can see here. And so we really want to make sure that the shooter is optimized as it is a critical function of the robot. And going just around to continue talking about the backspin wheels, the hood is operated on a Kraken X44 motor. So you can see that powertrain running. And the backspin wheels are operated by 1 Kraken X60 motor. But through this optimization, we're able to have a pretty rigid and essentially sturdy shooter. And off to talk to Christopher about software implementation.
All right, so we have the robot, we have the crazy good turret, we have the really fat intake, and we can have all the things going at once. How do you do all the stuff all at once? Well, for the turret, first thing I'm going to talk about is how we shoot on the move. So, in order to shoot on the move, you need to know where your robot is on the field. And the way that you're going to do that is by using limelight. So you have a limelight here, you got a limelight there, and one more limelight over here. And those are providing real-time vision and tracking data of the robot's pose on the field to the robot. And so what I can do is after retraining that pose data and getting it in software, we can use it to tell the drone where to go. There's a catch. if you aim the turret at the hub where you currently are and you shoot a ball, that ball is not going to land in the hub unless you're perfectly still. What you have to do instead is when your robot is translating left, right, and you shoot that ball's going to land where your robot was aiming. What you need to do is aim ahead. So you effectively need to predict the future. And the way we do that is we take our pose data, but instead of just aiming the turret based off that pose data, so let's say the hub is right there, right, and the robot is here, so you aim the turret where it would be. Instead of doing that, you take the speeds from the swerve modules in meters per second and you multiply that velocity by the vector of the pose. And so what that gives you is a future position. And what you can do is take that future position, and instead of aiming your turret from the current position, you jump to that position, aim the shot, and take it. And so that way, you scale the time by how long it takes for the robot, the fuel to leave the robot from here and to when it enters the hub. So you find that time, for us it's about a second, and you scale that vector 1 second in the future. And then you take the shot from there, bam, fuel lands in the hub every time, because effectively your robot is there by the time the ball lands in the hub. So that is how we do our shoot on the move implementation. And again, like Frank was saying, this shooter wheel, having instant RPM control on that is so incredibly useful because it doesn't have a lot of inertia, which means that if we're going 50 RPS, and we want to drop it to 20 RPS, we can do it just like that. It doesn't take that much current because there's really not a lot of inertia there. It's instantaneous torque. Same with the backspin. And so our shoot on the move calculator does a whole bunch of really silly stuff, actually, like separating the sine and cosine from the hood angle to get the shot's exit velocity. I'm not going to go too in depth into that, but it's black magic math, essentially. I don't even understand half of it, but it works, and it works great. After we've lined up our shot, right, and we're aiming at the hub, and we know that our shot is good, we need to run the die rotor. And this die rotor spins currently at 2.5 rotations per second. Theoretically, it's going to be able to run at 3.5, but we haven't implemented that yet. But it takes 2.5 rotations per second, fires up through this shooter, and all those balls will land in the hub. And we're getting about 18 fuel a second right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
All right. 18 fuel a second, which is really good because it just looks like a laser beam of fuel just going into the hub. And again, this robot tries to do all the things at once. So while we're running the die rotor, we're shooting the fuel, we're laser beaming, we can also be translating with the intake and loading our hopper full so we can just be shooting the whole time, which is what our current execution is trying to do. Speaking of the intake, that guy draws a lot of power. And in order to compensate for the amount of power that it draws, because that takes away from our subsystems like our drivetrain and our shooter, what I've done is I've made it so that when we're translating in the direction of the intake robot relative, we scale the speed of the intake to go up. But as soon as we start driving this way, away from the intake, it just stops because you're going that way, you're not collecting any fuel. So you stop the intake in that case, it's dodgeable, so that way if somebody tries to play defense on you, you can raise it up. That way you're not gonna get penalties. And yeah, we've tried to automate as much of that as possible, but you can only do so much. All right.
This has been Behind the Bumpers on Team 1987 Broncobots and their bot, Cyclone. Thank you guys, and good luck with your competition.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. Osh Cut is the premier metal cutting service for first teams. No minimum order, options for same-day turnaround, 3D tube laser cutting, and with nearly 500 variations of metal in stock and ready to cut. Just upload a file and claim your 50% off discount when you scan the QR code or go to funroboticsnetwork.com/OSHCUT. True competitors know that every second counts. That's why Kettering University challenges you to dive in right away as a first-year student. Participating in robotics programs helps Kettering students secure a valuable co-op. Whatever your interests, Kettering gives you more space to work faster and win faster. Learn more at kettering.edu/first.